But before we do that, let's get into our agenda. And our agenda item indicates that we would have a brief prayer at this point in time. My name is Sharon Cummings. I'm the moderator of the forum, and you will also have on the forum Ms. Dianna James, who is also the other partner in DBF. Today, we are graced by the presence of distinguished speakers in the persons of Ms. Keisha Cruikshank and Dr. Louis Nurse, and we have very special treats for you. In terms of entrepreneurs, we have Ms. Maria Bonio of Maria's Country Style Pastels, and we have a surprise guest in relation to parang. So hold on to your seats. Let us have a brief word of prayer, bless our proceedings, and we shall proceed. Could we assume an attitude consistent with prayer based on our own faiths? O Creator, we invite your divine presence into our proceedings this evening. Breathe afresh on us to revive hope where despair threatens. Breathe afresh on us to increase our resilience in the pursuit of what is good. Breathe afresh on us and wash over our anxieties with your peace. Enlighten the eyes of our mind as we embark upon this educational journey. May our proceedings bear fruit for your greater honor and glory. We give you thanks. Amen. So I'm so excited about this evening's forum. Welcome, welcome everyone. Diana, if you can just scroll back to the slide before, we give a little take about DBF. Well, DBF was born out of a desire to encourage solution-oriented dialogue on current and emergent issues in our new world order. As soon-to-be MBA graduates, myself and Dianna James, we thought it our responsibility to contribute to the national discourse, thereby adding to the collection of ideas available to inform our strategies and tactics in navigating the new normal. So without further ado, I want to introduce our first entrepreneur today, Miss Maria Bonio. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me on tonight as I continue to support entrepreneurship. My name is Maria Bonio, and I'm a co-founder of the brand, or Maria's Country Style Pastels. Our company is a rural community-based company based in Lupino, home of pastels, and I say that very proudly, where we use authentic, original recipes to deliver our pastels.
Well, Maria, we have a few questions to ask you. What got you started in the pastel making business?
So pastels, for me, so growing up, we grew up with tradition. One of the things we did was pastels. Getting older, entering the world of work and all of that, you know, you never have enough income. So at Christmas, I would always look for something to give as a gift. And one particular Christmas, I had no money to buy gifts. So what do? I look at my talent and I decided I was going to gift people that year pastels. And that is where the whole idea. So one particular friend said to me, but you know, you could sell this. Why don't we look at the recipe and try getting it into a grocery and see how far we could go with it? And that was the beginning of Maria's Country Style Pastels. So there was a need, we looked at it, and we decided to commercialize the recipe and to deliver it to markets.
Yes, I know it's tough out there in the world of business. Or what keeps you going in this business?
So food on the whole is very tricky because there are a lot of guidelines that you need to adhere to, especially for sanitary means. And if you want to do it right, it's better to follow guidelines, public health and all of these things. So you need to have a passion. You need to have the passion behind the drive. without the passion, you get nowhere, because then it becomes mundane and you lose track. Secondly, your customers. That joy when you have a return customer telling you it was good, I am willing, can I have it all year long? I can't wait for Christmas again. For me, those are the two things that really drive me to continue making pastels.
So you have gotten that kind of feedback from your delicious pastels.
Yes.
And the other question we have for you, how have you had to make any adjustments in light of COVID-19 to your business?
The business on the whole in 2020 took a dive. I think across the board, you hear big conglomerates complain or discuss the loss experience. For us, we look at making sure our customer continue to get benefits. So what we did, we look at strategies to deliver on the pastels. So we look at changing the size. So we look at packaging, we look at size, we look at cost. In some instances, if you buy over a certain amount, you get a discount. We also look at coupling complementary goods with the pastels. So in some instances, you may get a homemade chow chow to go with your pastel, or homemade pepper sauce, or
what is Christmas
something
without that?
without that. So we look at the tradition and we intend, in some cases, you may even get a punch of creme to go with your pastel.
Wow,
It depends
look
on
out for that deal.
what is the event and how we could really deliver to our customer.
Yes. And the last question to you, what are the top 2 characteristics, attitudes, attributes, skills you think entrepreneurs in today's world need to have?
You need to innovate. You need to be able to innovate as far as possible. And one of the things we have done is we manufacture, especially our beef pastels, by a machine. We were able to add a commercial aspect to our pastel making process. In that way, we could do quantities, yet keeping the quality of pastel we deliver. So for me, you have to be able to innovate your process. Yes, it's a traditional process. Yes, you keep your authenticity with your product, but you innovate as far as possible. That's the first thing. And second, we go back to passion. Be able to have the passion to drive your business to continue afloat. If you don't, then you sink very easy.
Yes, thank you very, very much. So there you have it, straight from the lady, the queen of pastels, Maria's Country Style Pastels. And you can contact 724-5363 to place your orders. We thank you very much, Maria Bonio, and wish you all the best for this season. What is Christmas without a tasty pastel? Support Maria's Tasty Pastels, Country Style Pastels. Thank you very much, Ms. Bonio.
You're most welcome.
Okay, then. Thank you. And we go on to our next entrepreneur. And this entrepreneur, well, I will let this act speak for itself.
So good day, everyone. My name is Joseph Bertrand, and I'm part of the band Los Sonidos, and we're a parang band. And what is Christmas without pastel and also parang? So we come to just give you a little taste of it. The first song that we're gonna do is called Levanta. So when you're in front of the house and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, then you're gonna hear. Levanta, Señor, levanta, levanta, Señor, levanta, levanta, Señor, levanta, levanta, Señor, levanta, 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 Señor, levanta, levanta, Señora, para la maraca. Y la guitarrilla respondemos todo lo que viva, celebramos, celebramos, celebramos. Levanta, Señor, levanta, levanta, Señor, levanta, levanta, Señor, levanta. Levanta, Señor, levanta, levanta, Señor, levanta, levanta, Señor, levanta, levanta, Señora. Celebramos, celebramos, celebramos. Nice.
Yay! Wonderful, wonderful. I think I have to go and get my bottle and spoon from the kitchen.
But yes, I finally don't have it one time. What is going on?
Yes, it's a plastic bottle I have here.
That could work too.
I mess up. Yes, so.
That could work too. That could work too. So
Yes.
after singing that one, we would come into the house, right? And then we have to
Yes.
bless the house with a song about the Annunciation or the birth of Christ. So
Yes.
the one that we're going to do now is about the birth of Christ.
Yes.
María Pastor, ay, qué bonito niño, con su cabello de oro, ha nacido al Rey de Reyes, ha nacido al Señor de Señores, Pesebre santo en, Pesebre santo en Belén. Aleluya, aleluya, aleluya y el Belén. Hosanna, Hosanna, en Jerusalén. Aleluya, aleluya, aleluya y el Belén. Hosanna, Hosanna, en Jerusalén. María Pastor. Ay, qué bonito niño, con su cabello de oro, ha nacido el Rey de Reyes, ha nacido el Señor de Señores, Pesebre santo en Belén, Pesebre santo en Belén, en Pesebre Belén, en Pesebre Belén.
Aye. Thank you very much. That was very wonderful. Thank you
Thank you
very,
very
very much.
I'm happy to bring the parent to you and to all your listeners.
Yes, and it's important to keep the real reason of Christmas in focus.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes. In relation to Parang, I want you to
Yes.
tell us a little bit about your group and how are you faring with COVID-19 and still breaking through that to bring us this beautiful music.
Oh, it is an interesting experience. Now, the group is a young group in age, all right? Because we've all been playing since our secondary school days.
Yes.
And we came together because of the love of Parang. And we have stuck it out throughout the years. Now, this one is our first with this type of situation, the COVID situation.
Yes.
And in order for us to continue to bring the music, we have to evolve in the way that we bring it. So we have
Yes.
several online opportunities to perform the Parang. And also on traditional media, for example, like the television, who have different programs and so on. And we'd be able to then perform and continue the tradition and keep the tradition actually. So
Okay.
in forums such as these, we'd also like to continue to educate as well, so that when we do return to some level of normalcy, there will be that understanding, that continued understanding of the tradition.
Yes. So you have had to use the internet in
Yes.
doing music now.
Yes, 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 correct.
What way is it different from before, the traditional way in which you would have presented Parang?
Oh, well, the traditional way would be face-to-face and I'd be together and everybody singing and dancing as one. But now you have to sing and dance in your little corner. but we really have to use and evolve in passing on the music. So for example,
Yes.
we took this time to develop our skills as well, because our product that we sell, quote unquote, is the music. And
Yes.
we have the time to hone various skills and so on. So like me, for example, my journey took me from the quattro into the mandolin. So
Yes.
and another instrument. So just to learn more, and the band is continuing to do so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand that you have just put out a recording.
Yes. We have, it's called Negro es Hermoso, Black
Yes.
is Beautiful. And it is one that we're very proud of. And it is something that we actually put together during this time.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
to really comment on what is happening within the world, actually. Yeah, with the
Yes.
Black
Okay.
beautiful as the driving force. Yeah.
Yes. So do you have a contact number where persons can reach you if they wish to book your,
Yes, sure.
your band?
So to reach Los Sonidos, it is 487
487.
56 487
Yes.
5659.
5659. So
Yes.
that's
So
Los
let
Sonidos.
me just give you it again. Let me just give
Yes.
it again. Right. So it is 487
Yes.
5691. Sorry, 91.
Sorry.
Yes.
5691. That's 487
and yes.
5691.
Yes, and the band leader's name is Kaisha Jones.
Kaisha.
Jones.
Kaisha Jones. Okay.
Yeah, an amazing singer.
Thank you very much for gracing us with your presence here this evening, and we wish all the best to your band. Thank you very much, Mr. Bertrand.
And thank you for having us.
Yes, you're most welcome.
Okay.
Yes, so thank you very much to our tour entrepreneurs. Well, you know, we have to go on because, you know, with time, you know, time flies so fast when you're having fun. So remember Maria's Country Style Pastel and Los Sonidos. We're going now into our first guest presenter, Ms. Keisha Cruikshank. Ms. Keisha Cruikshank is a human development and financial wellness professional committed to eliminating poverty and improving the lives of the people in the communities which she serves. She's registered and certified to practice by the Central Bank of TNT. She's a member of the TTAIFA, the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. So without further ado, we wish to welcome Ms. Keisha Cruikshank.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you very much, Diana. It has certainly been a pleasure so far this afternoon. Pastels, parang, and obviously for Christmas to buy those gifts and to get those businesses started in 2021, we need money, right? So I'm just going to share with you very, very quickly just some thoughts and some ideas. I would say that I've had the fantastic support of a good friend and colleague of mine from NEDCO in being able to put this presentation together. When Sharon asked me, I thought that she might have been a good fit for it, but I'm going to share with you a little bit from my own perspectives as well as an entrepreneur, okay? So for the brief presentation, I'm going to cover these topics or these ideas, small matters, to borrow or not to borrow, and I'll share a little bit of my own personal case study, my family's personal case study. I'm going to share with you a little bit about the concept of creating a trail and a brief review of some of the common requirements that some of the organizations would ask for. We're going to talk a little bit about fortifying your personal infrastructure, and then you would learn a little bit about how you can get support. So just to get right into it, small matters. And the organizations that we have focused on so far for this afternoon are essentially small organizations, okay? And if we look at the ILO data, basically that data has shown that persons who are self-employed or who employ between, let's say, 2 to 9 persons form a substantial part of the economies in low income, low to middle, upper middle, and even high income countries. So feel very, very proud for those of you on this Zoom webinar that your small business is in fact making an impact in countries, or small businesses are making impact across the world. Okay, that's the first point. Okay, the second point is financing. This whole question of financing. Do you really need it? Right? So I have a very, very diversified background. I'm really a human resource practitioner by training. I spent my first 10 years doing that. And in the last 10 years, basically running my own consultancy practice focused on human development. The focus on finance and money has come because I recognize that you can't talk about human rights and human development without money. But in my own family circle, there was a dream a few years ago to establish a food place. And we started off this evening talking about food, focusing on Maria's offerings. And in my own family context, there was this dilemma to get some funding. And the experience was to get this funding from NEPCO. So we went through the whole process, fulfilled all of their requirements, and I'll share with you what are some of the requirements that lending agencies would normally ask for. And at the end of the whole process, it was determined that though from a financial and a requirement perspective, my family met the requirements, because the space was a governmental space and all of the dots were not crossed on the governmental side, agency to agency, they were not in a position to lend money to any entrepreneur at that point in time, because the planning commissions essentially were not in place for the place under consideration. And looking back, Maria used the word innovate, and Joseph used the word evolve. That's what we had to do. We had to dig deep and to think about the ways in which we could get that business off the ground without necessarily borrowing. And it perhaps turned out to be one of the better decisions that we took, not to borrow, right? Because sometimes you are in fact able to pursue your dream and to pursue your business with class and with professionalism without necessarily plunging yourself into debt, right? And so if there is another takeaway that I would want to offer from this little segment is, before you go, or before you think that you need to borrow, really spend some time in deep thought to see whether or not there are creative ways to be able to achieve the ends that you would want. This logo that you're looking at was designed by a woman in Venezuela. Okay, we were able to take that space and use paint and art to literally bring the space to life without necessarily spending what we had envisaged in the original budget. Okay, and so that's my point. Sometimes there are things that you can do without having to spend as much or borrow as much. Okay. Third point, create a trail like a snail. Okay, what does this mean? If you get to the point and you determine that you have to borrow or you need to borrow because it's going to allow you to scale up, because it's going to allow you to do much more than you can with your current resources, then you need to begin to create your story. And you need to be able to create that trail that persons will buy into what you are proposing to offer. So you need to keep evidence of your business activities. Most of the institutions in our market would want to know or have some sense of proof that the idea that you have in mind could in fact make it. So if you have actually already started doing some things, keep records. Keep a record of the contracts. It doesn't have to be a big, long, legalistic document, but perhaps a simple agreement between yourself and whoever is providing you whatever as proof that you are entering into that relationship. That's for your record. Sometimes people may buy things and they don't want a receipt. You keep your receipts, okay? Keep a receipt of receipts for stuff that you purchase, the inputs to your business. If you're earning, once you're earning and you have established your bank account, and obviously there's a long process to go through to establish a business bank account, right? Generally speaking, in Trinidad and Tobago, it has to be done by appointment. By appointment, obviously you would have had to have your registration documents and so on to be able to do that. But once you're earning, even if it's $1, pass it to the bank account and then take it back out. So there's a trail, okay? And consider sometimes the receipts may fade. Consider ways in which you can prolong the life of those receipts so that when you are presenting yourself to whichever organization to ask for funding, you have some level of proof that things have been going in a particular way before you got to them. Okay. So what are some of the common requirements? And if you do have an interest in this, Natasha, who's at NEPCO, has done a fantastic job of compiling those documents. I can email it to you, so you can always pop me a note and I can get those to you. I'm just going to flip my screen very quickly so that you can see those requirements. Start off with the basic things like 2 forms of ID. Obviously, they must be valid. Proof of your home address, or if you have a business location, evidence of your business address, your lease agreement. A resume is very, very important. In terms, they would look at what has been your track record, what has led you to the point that you are at, your Board of Inland Revenue certificate, your business registration documents. We spoke a lot just now about evidence of business transactions. So whoever's lending you money would want to see that. All certificates and licenses pertaining to the business type. And I could continue on. References. So some people who are reputable should know about what you're doing, so they'll be able to vouch for you. And then if you're considering offering particular things as security, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's real estate, whether it's insurance, whether it's equipment, whether it's cash, again, there are particular standards that are expected generally across the board. My time is very limited. This document, I can in fact make it available to you. You just pop me a note and I will be happy to email it to you thereafter. So I'm going to flip back to the presentation just to be able to progress the topic a little bit more. So you're creating a trail. You're understanding that there are common requirements that are asked for across the board, but what is important is that you begin to create that trail, have your proof, and then very, very important is fortify your personal infrastructure. So in preparing for this presentation and chatting with the officer at NEPCO, we were discussing what percentage of persons who actually apply for loans actually are able to make it in business. What percentage of persons are not able to pay their loans, or whose businesses don't necessarily turn out in the way that they would have envisaged from the beginning. You can look at the international data as it surrounds, as it relates to business success and business failure within the first year, within the first 5 years, and so on. The statistics are there. But what was interesting from that discussion was the fact many of those businesses fail because of personal circumstances that would present themselves to the owners. So whether it's death, whether it's sickness, whether it's other family-related type issues, would then get into the way of them being able to execute the business plans. And so fortifying your personal infrastructure is also a very essential part of preparing yourself for business and for being able to access that financing, okay? And understanding that across the world, the money and financial matters are essentially #1 stressors. So as you begin your business, the reality of it is that these are what the statistics say, okay? And even as you're pursuing your passion, the reality of it is that for those that may be making a lot, and for those that may be making a little, the concerns, the data, are essentially generated not having enough emergency savings, not being able to meet monthly expenses, not being able to retire, not being able to keep up with that. And for those who are on the employee side, this is employee data, not being able to make it, okay? These are the same kind of concerns that also filter in to persons who are handling their businesses. Fortifying your personal infrastructure begins with understanding that journey to financial independence. So many people will set up a business because they are looking to become more financially independent, but what are the stages? And if you look at it, an integral part of that stage is stage 2, which is building up the emergency fund, and you would have seen it in COVID-19. A number of businesses did not survive because there was no fund. And so even as you're contemplating this question of financing, right, however you finance, whether it may be borrowing or not, this question of the emergency fund is very, very important. Okay? All right, so just to wind up, there are a number of steps that I would normally walk my clients through in trying to help them prepare for fortifying their personal stories so that they can then move on into business or fortifying their businesses. And I just wanted to let you know, as I wind up, that there is available support. Organizations like NETCO, I found them very, very user-friendly, very, very amenable to small businesses. By them, I can give the referral. And on a personal level, for those that may desire my own support, you can feel free to reach out. I hope that this has been useful to you all this afternoon. And just to kind of recap, what we would have covered today is your business matters. It may be small, but it matters. Don't necessarily have to rush to borrow. Think, meditate, innovate, create a trail. Okay, there are some common requirements that all organizations will ask for, regardless of the amount that you want to borrow. It's important to fortify your personal infrastructure because invariably, if your own personal foundation is not strong enough, and if you don't build even your business foundation, then when life happens, it will fall, and there is support available to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keisha. There's just one question I wanted to ask. Could you give us a little more insight into fortifying your personal infrastructure? I'm so struck by the need to do that. It's like, I get the impression that you have to have a solid building in terms of what we are bringing to the table in coming for financing.
Right. So in fortifying your personal infrastructure, as I said, in speaking with the loans officer at NETCO, she mentioned to me that one of the things that causes businesses many times to fail, right? Many times where they can't pay their loans because life has hit them. Someone someone has died, they have to take the money to do something, somebody got sick or they got sick, right? And
Yes.
many times we, and I have done that personally, we tend to throw a lot of our resources into the business because we
Yes.
see the business as the savior, as the thing that will deliver us and that will take us up the financial ladder without necessarily understanding the stages. And so fortification of your personal infrastructure really means taking stock of where you are. It really means taking an inventory of your assets and your liabilities, taking stock of your debt, personal debt too, because invariably that's going to pull you, right?
Yes.
Making sure that you have that that float, because we saw what happened when COVID-19 hit. A lot of people didn't have a float in businesses as well, and they pulled it up.
Yes.
Right? Therefore, chart and duty, and so it's a process. And I would be willing to chat more with those who may have an interest.
Okay, thank you very much. And in terms of reaching you, could you tell everyone how they can reach you to have a consultation on these very important financial matters?
So 685-1366 is a number that I am easily accessible at, so they can reach out.
685, could you just repeat the number? The sound just muffled a little bit.
685-1366.
Yes. And there's also a website that you have. There's a screen with their website address.
Right, okay, good. So,
yes,
they can also feel free to book a consultation there as well.
Yes. Well, thank you ever so much for sharing.
You're welcome, Sharon. Congratulations on this initiative to you and to Diana, and just keep going, okay?
Well, thank you so much. Let me say I was inspired by you as well. You have a forum in terms of champions of change. So there we have it. We have the expert impartation of the experience of Ms. Keisha Cruikshank, a financial wellness professional. Okay. And you can get her at 685-1366 and check out the website that is indicated here on our screen. https://KeishaCruikshank.setmore.com/. So we're rolling on to our next presentation. Yes, we promise you parang, pastels in this pandemic. And we're also looking at the financing options. We had our first deposit in terms of knowledge of financing. And now we're going on to another presenter, Dr. Louis Nurse. I will ask Ms. Dianna James to introduce Dr. Nurse.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Our featured guest has a diploma in management, an MBA in business finance and project management, a DBA in project planning and management. His areas of expertise are corporate governance, project leadership, strategic planning, investment analysis, experienced in both public and private sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Louis Nurse.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Welcome, friends. It's Christmas time, and Christmas time is a time where we spend our spiritual focus on the life of Jesus. And one interesting thing about Jesus is that he was able to take resources, which was fish and bread, a little bit, 3 loaves and 5 fishes, and feed multitudes. And that is the essence of business. So I will take you through this some little discussion for us to understand what is financing a business. And financing a business speaks to the ability to take your resources, little bit of resources, and manage them to give service to others. That is what managing a business is, and that's what financing a business is. It's not about simply going to the bank to get money. It's about being committed to provide a good or a service to a market or customers who will pay you for that value that you offer. So when we talk about financing, I want us to get into the entrepreneurship thinking that finance for a business comes from my ability to offer a product or service for which somebody, a customer, is prepared to pay a price for. That's where business is, and that's where finances is. So we're going to look at some of the techniques and requirements, because in looking at the technique, once we have a transaction or we have a product that people are prepared to pay for, it means we are in a strong position to finance our business. So to achieve success in business or using a business model or forum, you must understand finance. And finance is a noun, which is the transaction between you and a customer. That point of sale is what we are going to, that's what we are discussing. So the success mindset means that when you are looking at yourself and your ideas, you have to sift out the ideas and identify the real business opportunities or the real business options. In other words, before you think about finance, think about what your customers would want and create and connect a business which will pay you for a service or a good. So the first thing is look at all the options around, and then you are able to come up with an idea. And you come up with an idea where you have identified an opportunity where people or customers would pay for something that you have. So in that success mindset, you want to conduct due diligence and do a business analysis. Now, when we talk about business analysis, what are we really saying? Everybody has a good idea, but taking the time to document your idea, to look at the idea critically, to analyze and to say, well, how much of these products can I sell? Or how much of these products can I produce? So when we look at financing, financing is a process that moves value from supply to demand. If I can make it, I can buy it. You can buy it. If I want to make plenty, somebody must buy plenty. So therefore, and in buying plenty, the volume of sales at a particular price will give me a certain amount of revenue, and it's from that revenue I can pay my bills. So when we're making the choice of the type of investment that you want to make first, you have to ensure that the idea is suitable to your situation. Do I have the capability to do it? Do I have the physical facilities to do it? Do I have the HR support? Do I have the team to do it? Is what I'm going to do acceptable to my neighbor? Because sometimes you want to start a business at home, and your neighbor is someone, for example, it might be an online business or it might be a school setting where you want to teach people online, but your neighbor is a person who making noise, you have a barking dog. So in other words, not only that your idea has to be suitable to you and your capability and competence, it has to be acceptable to the ecosystem around you so that you will get support for this project. But financing comes from this word feasible. Feasibility means, can this project, idea, invention, or product make money? That's the bottom line. The value of a company today is the value of its future earnings. It is the future earnings that you give up today to get finance. Let me just repeat this for you to get it right. If I want to buy a car, I'm going to pay for my car over 5 years. But to have that car today, I have to commit 5 years of earnings. Therefore, feasibility, for it to be sustainable and enduring, you must be in a position that your idea will generate the cash flows to pay over what is called the payback period. So feasibility is this project going to make enough money? So the value of a company today is the value of its future earnings. And the future earnings of the company is the projected cash flows, which is where your financing capability is measured. You're not measured on your assets. It's not about how much security you have. It's whether this project, this investment, will bring in cash. And we must be able to communicate this to the shareholders and the stakeholders, both orally and in writing. Well, why is that important? Because you can't say, I have an idea, without constructing and writing it down. And that is called your business proposal. When you draft up your business proposal, you're saying, I'm going to do this, and you're going to answer these questions. What am I going to do? I'm going to start a business to sell pastels. Why am I going to do it? I'm going to do it because I have a formula or recipe that is very effective, and I think that people are going to buy it. Where am I going to do it? I'm going to do it in Lopino, which is a traditional home of cooking, and I will do it from my home. How am I going to do it? I have 3 people to work with me, and we can produce a certain amount of materials, right? Are there customers who will buy? Yes, because what we focus on now is marketing our ideas. That cash flows, for it to be feasible, for you to support finance, you must market so that your demand is of a certain size to bring in the amount of money that will cover your costs. So just making something doesn't help you. You're going to make something of a certain volume so that at the end of the day, there are enough customers to pay for the cost. So brainstorming, financial management and financial literacy begins with you thinking outside the box and understanding the new normal as changes in the world emerges. Because am I going to make, I would like to make a donkey cart. I want to sell a donkey cart. But then who buys donkey carts? What about coal pots? Who buys coal pots? What about BlackBerry phones? Who buys that today? In other words, when you are thinking about your business idea, for it to attract finance, has to be futuristic in its orientation. In other words, if you're going to buy something with a payback period of 5 years, you've got to know that people will want this project, want this product over the next 5 years. So you got to brainstorm. And brainstorming allows you, as a financial person or a person seeking finance, to be confident that you have tested the idea, you have looked at the market, you have identified your customers, you have come up with a due diligence of the whole situation. So you are building your confidence that an investor, which is the bank, will put money into this project. So some of the key business finance concepts. Remember, we're not just talking about finance, we're talking about financing a business or business finance. I want to tell you that finance is a noun. When you say, listen, do I have the finance, which is the total amount of capital required to sustain a business? Or do I have the finance, which is the cash flows over the time to pay your bills? So the two words I want to put in front of you: finance the noun, finance the verb. And if you want to say financing is the verb, fine. So finance is the noun, which is equal to capital. And financing is the verb that says over the payback period or over the operational period of this investment, the financing, which is the inflow of cash and the ability to pay the bills. That cash in, cash out, that cash flow. So therefore, when we look at capital, we have fixed capital. In thinking of how am I going to do this business, I have to look at the equipment I have to buy. I have to look at the buildings I have to purchase. I have to look at the structure or the fixed capital. And while we're looking at fixed capital, we have to look at the development capital, because maybe you could have started with one machine, but then because of the volume of business, you got to invest in another machine. In other words, capital is the structure on which the platform or the structure on which the business is able to execute. Your working capital is the cash that you need every day to pay the bills. So fixed capital is the car, is the vehicle that you buy. Working capital is the money you need to put gas in it every day for you to go out and earn $1. So fixed capital is structural, it's fixed, it's equipment, materials, buildings. Working capital is the recurrent expenditure, paying rent, paying your taxes and all these things. The investment period that we need to consider is the period of time that you are making. Every investment must be put into a timeline. If you're borrowing from a mortgage, 30 years. I'm borrowing from a mortgage, 15 years. I'm borrowing to buy a vehicle as a fixed capital, that is 5 years. And when you look at your business, the payback, the investment period sometimes is longer than the payback period. I want to get those 2 points for you. The payback period can be seen in two ways. When do you get back your capital? If I put out $100 today and I invest it in a bar, at what point in time do I get back my money? That's called a break-even point. So when you're looking at a business and you're looking at financing, you've got to finance your business where the capital is up to the break-even point. Every dollar earned after that becomes profit. Loans and financing is principal by rate by time. So an important thing when you are looking at your business and you're looking at your financing plans, you understand what is the rate of interest you're going to pay and how long you're going to pay it for. So let me give you an example. A mortgage of $60 million at 10% for 10 years. After 10 years, you'd have paid the bank $120 million. The interest rate at 10% of the 10 years is 100%. If you were to hold that same 60 million for 20 years at 10%, you would pay back 240 million. If you take it for 30 years, you'll be paying back 360 million. As the time increases, your payments of interest also increase. So your $60 million taken on a 30-year mortgage at 10% will cost you $360 million, 6 times what you borrow. You've got to make sure that you have the income over the next 30 years to carry the cost of that capital. So a key concept in business financing is looking at your cost of capital, looking at your interest rate, looking at your time, understanding your payback period, understanding the investment period, and looking at the requirements for working capital and fixed capital. So when we talk about the types of capital, before you talk to the bank, you must know if you have adequate capital to do your business. And capital here is land, labor, materials, plant and equipment, right? And capital is put into your, in accounting sense, in your balance sheet, right? It is assets and liabilities, but capital is the assets in your balance sheet. I want you all to get that. So therefore, an important thing when you go into the bank is to have an accounting statement of your business. The banks give you some of those forms to fill out. But when you go in for a loan and you plan to do a business, you have to be able to show the bank that you have capital. What is the capital you need to know if the capital is adequate to meet your projections. But it's not just cash. There's social capital, which is your brand recognition, your capacity, and your skills that you have, especially management skills. Then there's intellectual capital, which is your brain power. There's the technological capital. And in today's world, because we are now in a digital market, because everything is so well organized in terms of technology and how technology works, we have to treat technology as capital. In other words, if I could go online, that's capital. Because if I can't go online, I have no capital. So technological capital and the technological infrastructure is a critical platform for today's business world. Then there's the technical capital. How do I get it working? Who does maintain it? How do I fix it? You need the technical capital as part of your business just to maintain the platforms that will take you to the future. Then you have the human resource capital, the human capital, which is really important. I want to remind you that the human capital is not just the people in the business, but it's the whole ecosystem that the business is involved in. The buyers, the suppliers, the customers, your shareholders, your staff, everybody who has an interest in this business becomes part of the human capital. And the last one is your financial capital. So when you look at the types of financing that you will look for, the first one is sweat capital. You see me, I working for myself. So the guy who is a plumber or he's an electrician, he builds a business by sweat capital. He goes out there and he serves people. It's called active earning. But if he wants to expand, he can sell shares to individuals, where you give up part of the ownership of the business, but you bring in partners who bring in capital, and you can start your business at a much higher level. The types of financing is also described by the bylaws of the company. When you establish a company, the company has a memorandum of articles or bylaws, which also determine the level of trading it can do. Private companies and public companies have limits sometimes in their bylaws. So when we talk about the type of financing, the type of financing you'll be able to access might be conditioned by your bylaws of your company. Publicly traded companies, for example, Republic Bank or Massey or ANSA, those companies trade on stocks because people buy shares. People buying shares in their companies, and they constantly, the shares have a value and they are publicly traded. Then we have bonds. Bonds is when you are able to put out bonds where investors will buy into a bond which you would use to finance your business. That was done by KFC. It's called an initial public offer. Then you have debentures, which is a charge on all your assets of the company, fixed and floating assets. Then you have mortgages. You also have venture capital, where people put in cash. Instead of you going to the bank to borrow, an investor will put in the money as equity, as preference shares, and you are able to acquire the money to do the business that has to be done. Then you have traditional loans, you have overdraft, and those type of financing are all supported by levels of collateral, cash, or property. But for you to be eligible for finance, for you to go to the bank, what do I need to do to go to the bank, Dr. Lewis? First, you got to be confident and committed to the achievement of your idea over the payback period. You can't want to borrow money and halfway through say, I'm done with this business. You're going to stick it out. You have to have the ability and energy to lead the process, because you have to be passionate about what you want and deliver what you need. You have to identify and mitigate all the risks as part of your due diligence. You have to find the appropriate solutions to all the problems, because once you make that investment and you owe the financier, you've got to deliver the earnings. You've got to have the ability to persuade and inspire others about your project success factors. If I can't sell it to you, then who's going to buy it? You got to maintain the coordination among the team, the cooperation, communication, congruence, conflict reduction. All of that is important to maintain the philosophy and the spirit that will keep harmony and success alive. You got to ensure that your skills, the company organizational structure and value chain, its culture, its systems, and its competitive strategies are up to date with the current times and with the current approaches. So your entrepreneurial awareness, it answers in this question. This question always remains, what are the businesses that are allowed in the reset world 2020 to 2030? Right now, people who are selling masks making money. People who are selling sanitizers making money. People who are selling goods online making money. In other words, there are people who are losing money because they are part of the old world, but the new world is emerging. What products are obsolete and what is emerging? And most important, what is the new knowledge requirements for me to adapt and deliver goods and services? We must pay attention to global economic development and the rise of the new economic order. Look at what's happening with countries making new bilateral trading arrangements. Look at the first world. Look at what's happening with lockdown and the drugs and this vaccine that they want to give everybody. What we're saying is the vaccination comes in, and the pharmaceutical companies are going to make billions of dollars selling this vaccine. And governments are going to pass laws that you must take it. So the whole world have to buy your goods in one shot. Then the culture of consumerism. Are people still prepared to buy all these things that they used to buy? And most important, identify the zombie companies, the companies that are still standing up there like hotels and all these things that nobody's in, like cruise ships, right? Because if you identify those companies, you know the businesses that makes no sense, because all those companies have no cash flows, so they can't get financing. So an entrepreneur who goes to the bank looking for financing understands his or her vocation is to support others to be the best they can be by contributing a product or service designed to improve human lives. The value that you provide to others would measure the value you receive and will also show you the amount of financing that you could receive, because the bank will only lend you a percentage of what you want. If you want to buy a car, you have to put on 10%. If you want to buy a house, you have to put on 10%. In other words, you cannot get finance if you don't have skin in the game. You got to make sure that your business model is suitable. So you check for the technology, look at the digital marketing. Digital marketing, very important. social marketing, the role of e-commerce where people pay online. Pay attention to digital currency. I want to explain this digital currency quickly. Where right now, the only time you use cash is when you go to the bank, the teller, because all your bills, your money is paid straight into your account. So the truth is, we are using digital currency now, and people don't even realize it. You only use cash when you pull money out. But your salary goes to the bank, your mortgage is paid from the bank, you pay your credit card online. All your payments are done by credits, not cash. The value is measured in units, but it is digital currency. Then you look at new and emerging customer and demand cycles. Look at the new distribution channels. Before you had to drive in Port of Spain to buy something. Now we just go online and they drop it home for you. The role of robotics, androids and drones. Pay attention to how these things are now integrated into business activity. And the most important one is cybersecurity. Understand that everything we do now is recorded. Everything you do is now monitored by a system. And that's all the children and all the teaching. Look at how much data is being collected every day on human activities by national security and other people. So for you to get finance, you have to have networks and partnerships to help you. You have to look at your reputation and branding. Will people buy from you? Are you doing things in your personal space that will compromise your business earnings? Do you have the managerial capability? The asset suitability, which is are things around you in order? Do you have the value chain? Is your products in alignment with the market? Do you have the quality, the earnings that are above cost, the future cash flows? Have you been paying your taxes? Oh, sorry. Where was I? Right. Have you been paying your taxes? Right? Are you in compliance with all the regulations? And most importantly, today's banks cannot lend to people who are not in compliance with annual returns, directors being known. There's a long list of things that is now called good corporate governance. So as value exploiters, which is what we are, we have to look at the quality of the service that we offer with the integrity to build customer confidence, product credibility, and customer loyalty. It's not just about producing the goods. You want people to come back. It's your repeat business and customer loyalty that gives you stable cash flows. Your reputation is based on marketing. And remember, marketing is what drives your demand of revenue. Demand and revenue, right? Gaining a stakeholder support by aligning with government agencies, understanding the regulators. You've got in every business activity today, you must be in full compliance with the laws, both local and international. Both local and international. People don't realize that if you have a product in the United States and you are selling to the United States, you have to meet United States regulations too. The laws are all interlinked. There's FACTA and there's double taxation treaties. There are lots of things that says if you're going to make money, you're going to make money in America, you're going to pay tax in America, and you must be in compliance. Then your contract management. When you go to the bank to do financing, read what you are signing. Always get advice before you sign. And this allows you to adapt the business model of the company to the changing market to ensure optimum results. So your business planning elements. When you come to the bank now, the bank says to you, well, you're going to have a business plan. And this business plan, my friends, got to be a match made in heaven. You can't go to the bank to look for financing with a half-baked project. You got to make sure the products that people are buying, if they're inelastic, just like inelastic demand is the vaccine, you must buy it. Inelastic demand is water, you must drink it. Inelastic demand is electricity, you must buy it. Elastic demand is carnival, I'm bound to go. So elastic is when it is discretionary to purchase. Inelastic is when you have to purchase. So when you are looking at your business plan, is your product something people must buy, people should buy, or people will choose to buy? And the difference between each one will determine your level of cash that you can earn from this business. Tell yourself that the pharmaceutical companies are going to be making billions, billions. All them vaccines, those pharmaceutical companies doing it. Why? And you must buy it. Oh, you're getting the code, take a vaccine. Everything is about vaccine now. So the value management elements and value engineering, I want you all to remember these two terms. Value management is the ability to when you get money, to use it properly. The ability when you get money to use it properly. So there's no point in you working for money and you're trying to push your business, and the next day you find yourself doing something stupid like gambling, for example, and not managing your money. That's value management. Value engineering is when you're able to take that money and apply that money appropriately to create more money. Value management, I'm managing what I have. Value engineering, I'm able to take what I have and multiply it. And to do that, I've got to target the appropriate customers, have good distribution and service, and price my products above economic cost. I want to focus a bit on pricing because people price their goods and actually subsidize it. They don't charge the economic cost because the customer, if I charge them too high, they ain't go take it. But if you charge, if you charge them low, then you paying for it. There's something called the real cost. And in business, always charge the real price. If a person can't pay the real price, then let them go somewhere else. Pricing is economic cost, above economic cost. If the price is too low, then you are not going to make money. Then there's the risk management. What the banks are concerned about when you come to borrow is if you are credit risk. Are you a person who will pay back your loan? Are you a person who is committed to paying back the loan? Do you have insurance to cover you in case you die and you owe me? So what the banks do, they take out insurance on their loans and they take out insurance on your life. And you are able now to secure your credit, yourself as a credit risk. Then there's currency risk, the value of money. Right now, the US is 680. Who's to say that next year it's still going to be there? So if you have to buy goods, you need to price for the currency risk. Then look at the country risk. Look at what's happening in Italy and those countries. Would you want to do business in those countries? Do you want those tourists to come to your Caribbean? So there's a country risk. And there's business assumption risks, legal risks, where people sign contracts and they end up being tied up, compliance risks. Then there's the operational risk where people leave your business. And then there's risks in the political, economic, social, technological, legal, and ecological risk. So therefore, in handling business risk, we have to look at change management and align our businesses. So what are the things you need to be eligible for financing? Besides the business stability and managerial competence, you've got to show 3 years earnings, audited accounts, you must have a credit history, you must show the bank your credit purpose, what are the key value drivers that will support your investment, the positive key success factors, key assumptions that are real over the investment period, what are the key resources that you need, what are the key challenges and risks with a mitigation plan over the investment period. You have to show them your projected cash flows, which should be positive. You've got to have a contingency plan. You got to address market risk just in case there are shifts. For example, they close the borders, so you have a hotel. And at the end of the day, we have to provide a budget with proper cost management. When you conduct a feasibility study, your choice of business activity will determine your lifestyle and your time management. You can't want to be in business when there's work to do and you want to go online. One has to know when Jesus said, "Mommy, I bought my father's business." There's a time to do and there's a time not to do. And business activity is committed doing. It's part of your personal development. To get your feasibility to work, you got to have family planning and family participation with education that is country specific, industry specific, company specific, job specific, and community specific. In other words, you have to have a broad, holistic view of the industry and country and product that you are going to sell and align your skills. That's what gives your business feasibility, continuity, and sustained value. So your success factors for you to get finance means you got to apply the appropriate accounting techniques and standards. You got to have the appropriate documentation. You have to have a strategic plan. You have to have project-based management where you plan your implementation as a project with the right resources. You got to know your market segmentation that you are targeting, how you're going to distribute your goods, what is the price you offer and the value that people expect for that price, your service quality, your organizational development, and remember that people buy and invest in innovation, invention, and creativity, new product development. Right? Yes. So now we're looking at education, continuous learning, business intelligence, right? Manage your earnings to build wealth in your balance sheet. That is your principle, my friends. Manage your earnings to build wealth in your balance sheet. Your balance sheet is like your barns are overfilled. A business that you want to finance is a self-learning, social economics ecosystem. A legal corporate, and it's very important for me to tell you this, a business is outside of you. A business is a legal person outside of you, which is managed by directors and officers and staff in a fiduciary relationship, which means you act as an agent of this company, leading to deliver value, products and services to customers in a proactive fashion at a price which creates profit or cost benefit to stakeholders. So I'm saying to you, my friends, that for you to get finance, you've got to have a business that fits into this model and have entrepreneurship as a process to inspire your business development. And business is driven by the power of the word. So when you go to the bank, you go for finance, you got to be able to persuade these people. So business is conducted on the power of words. Marketing is about words. Business planning is about words. And finance is about using the correct words so that you can bless and people will invest into your operation. So finance requires persuading the stakeholders to contribute. And the power of the word in business flows from the prayer where you said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." In saying that, you are going to the land of abundance and you are attracting to yourself prosperity, wealth, and success. And in doing that, it is measured in cash. You are able to go to the bank and subscribe to a financing who will put money with you to gain more money, which is earnings. So to finance a business, you must believe in the value of the product or service, doing your duty in a disciplined, diligent manner, demonstrating responsibility, thrift, transparency, integrity, and accountability, self-reliance, self-sufficiency, independent thinking, and strategic thinkings. In doing this, my friends, to get finance, do things the right way, with persistence and perseverance, the protection of your talent and potential, with the participation, the projection, sorry, of your talent and potential with the participation of a team, where you know the relevant policy and procedures will allow you to attract finance, attract investors. Success is your mission. So I say thank you very much. And most important, Merry Christmas. So this is my little presentation for today, and I want to thank everybody for their participation. So this is where I hand back to Sharon.
Yes, well, thank you ever so much, Dr. Nurse. What a presentation. Now, everyone here, you cannot say you did not get your Christmas gift early. You got it here on this forum. Within the pandemic, you still had pastels, parang, and a wealth of knowledge this evening on financing. So the forum is open now for any questions or comments anyone would like to make. And of course, if you want a copy of the presentation, just put your email inside of the chat. So going back, before anyone else can ask any question, I just want to ask, early on you said entrepreneurship is the ability to offer product or service for which the consumer is able to pay a price for, right? And the consumer must be prepared to pay that price. And the main question is, can this product make money? So essentially, the entrepreneur has to be the advocate of its business idea when it's the entrepreneur is approaching the bank for finances or any other type of institution for finances.
That's right. If you are not convinced about your idea and your idea is not packaged properly, and it's something that as a banker I've heard people say, is this a bankable project? A bankable project begins with you, because people are not financing a business, they're financing a business through you. They're financing an idea that you have. And therefore, what makes that idea valuable for me to put money into it is the cash flows that it could earn. So if this business idea doesn't have customers, then it is not something that's going to be financed.
But, there's an idea that, with COVID and the New World Order, that somehow the ideas, what other ideas you could come up with? It's like there's nothing new under the sun. What else could you come up with?
Well, to come up with, and that's where we talk about brainstorming. And you are asking the brainstorming question. If a person sits down and think about who is making money now, we keep looking at the cup half empty and say, well, look how much people losing their business because those people are part of the old order. No supermarket are closing down, no pharmaceuticals are closing down, all the hospitals are filled, all the people selling sanitization is filled, cleaning companies are making money, distribution companies are making money, online companies are making money, Netflix is making money, Google is making money, Facebook is making money. So what it is, in other words, there are new businesses that are emerging, and innovation is showing you that human needs continue to be met. Old businesses, yes, hotels closing down because nobody can travel and planes not flying, and we know all about that. But don't look at that. Look at what's coming up. If people can't go out, look at what's happening in Tobago. Tobago is filled with people from Trinidad because people are saying, I can't go Miami, I could go to Tobago. So the Prime Minister made the statement that all the villas are filled up. So it shows you that whenever there's a dark cloud, there's always a silver lining. And we as entrepreneurs, if we want to look for finance, must identify the opportunities in all that bloom that you could find a niche to make some money. That's where we are.
Yes. You know, and I was also reflecting, some people think that you need to have like a special thing to be an entrepreneur. But I was reflecting on that and I was saying, well, hold on. I don't think that everybody needs to have a rich person get richer to give them a job, because the World Bank says more than 50% of the small businesses, more than 50% of the GDP in Trinidad is estimated to arise from small, medium enterprises.
That's right.
There is a lot of avenues for creativity that are there. Now, when you expressed all these ideas about the financing, do you think that we have enough avenues to help the entrepreneurs get that financing, source that financing that they need to turn those ideas into reality, and not just the financing, but these other things that come with it?
The answer is yes. The truth is, there's a great deception that we are being told that we can't. I want to leave it there. We are being told by all the messages around, get up, get a job and go to work, right? Because anything, but the guy who is out there running a business, he didn't go out and get a job, he started a business. So is the training available? And the answer is yes. We have the universities and we have other small courses. Is the information available? And the answer is yes. We just discussed some of that a few minutes ago. Is the commitment there? The answer is no. That's where your problem is. That people sit down and they say it's not available. And the bank would say, we are looking for projects to invest in. We have over $12 billion in liquidity. They want people to borrow, but what people want to borrow for? To buy a car, a liability. To buy a house, a next liability. They're not thinking about having something that will earn them money, which is an asset. So if you are going to get a loan for something that's going to earn money, you have no problem. No problem. If you have to get a loan to buy something and you have to have the money to pay for it, that's a liability. So if I want to put up apartments that people could rent, or I'm going to do a development that people could buy houses, the earnings is what the bank will invest in. The bank doesn't invest in your idea because to make you happy. The bank invests in your idea because from the earnings, the bank makes its earnings called interest. So it's a symbiotic relationship. The truth is, the opportunity is there, and more people have to stop and do not believe and reject the idea that I can't do it, I can't get money, and nobody will lend me, and all that is a deception. It's sold to us, and I share it with you, but it's one of the greatest deceptions that our people have faced, especially people who are not traditional business people.
But I also want to make the point that I feel that there's a responsibility on the parts of the think tanks in our society, like UE, to help foster this spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation. Because we are doing our part here on this forum, and all the persons who are here, you're exposed to the knowledge, and by that, if we go and we speak about it, we are like seeds, planting seeds all over. And hopefully it will bear fruit, and where fruit is being born, that more fruit will be born. However, I think a lot more has to be done to educate us in such a way that we are thinking capable, as opposed to, oh, I'm getting a degree to get a job. So I think there's a greater responsibility to help lead us into a different mindset. Do you think that the think tanks are doing their jobs at this hour?
At this hour, my answer to you is no. I honestly believe that. because the foundational problem is mathematics. 100 people I speak to, did they do CXC and maths and pass it? No. They have degree of English, you have this, they don't have maths. So when you show them accounts, they run away because they don't like maths and don't understand that business management, financial management, revenue generation, earnings, and liquidity, putting money in your pocket is mathematics. To bless is to multiply. To have favor is to add. And to share is to give. So when we look at the conversation and you speak to people who go to school and do degrees and working, and then they want to run a business, but a business requires work, requires hours. A businessman works 24 hours because he has to think about how he's going to earn tomorrow. Earning is not something that I have a salary coming in every month. He has to create that income. And to create that income, he has to learn multiplication. So I'm saying that the first thing that entrepreneurs have to learn to do is count. Be able to count. I showed you how $60 million at 10% is $360 million in 30 years. So people run and say, I'm going to take out a mortgage. They don't see how much money they pay. So a lot of the issues of financial literacy and the ability to plan and manage your finance is why the banks reject people's loans. And those projects that fail, they fail because of poor financial literacy and management.
Given that COVID, in these times, that you have finite resources, and if the banks are there and there's a lot of liquidity in their system, isn't there an overarching obligation now for all the players to come together, not just to sit and tick and say, rejected, the maths and this isn't right, to help the projects that are feasible and viable, to help them to see the light of day? Because this COVID pandemic has brought with it a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, but there are a lot of opportunities that we need to grab in order to come out and emerge victorious in the new normal.
Yes.
So should a society like Trinidad and Tobago with finite resources just accept that there's a lot of liquidity, but there are ideas somewhere and there's not a connection between the ideas and the liquidity to bring that business into fruition?
Well, I'll tell you something. Ideally speaking, what you said there is something that people should do. And there are institutions that provide support for money to be able to help you do a business plan and that kind of thing. But the truth is, the structure of the economy is of such that the percentage of large businesses that control the distribution and the production network are not interested in a lot of competitors coming in. That's one of the challenges, that big businesses are now going into small areas. In other words, there's an expansion mode where these companies are literally taking over everything. And the example I would just give you without going too far is people didn't know how big Massey was until Massey decided to brand everything Massey. So ask yourself the question, is it in the interest of those who controlled business entrepreneurship and activity in the country to allow all these entrepreneurs to emerge to compete with them?
Well,
Would I teach you to come to stress me?
Well, I don't think it would rely on those businesses to do that. What I'm speaking about is government having an overarching responsibility. The think tanks that are supposed to produce the thinkers, the innovators, you know, stepping up in a way that will produce new companies, you know, based on innovation, based on what will endure in the new world order.
No, what you said there is very, very significant, and I want you to really realize how important balance of trade. Balance of trade is the amount of goods we export versus the amount of goods we import. When oil and gas was running up to 2015 or 2015, up to 2014, right? You had a balance of trade or balance of payments. They have different words they use, but I want to just keep it there. Where Trinidad and Tobago was exporting billions and importing billions, but there was still a gap. There was still a positive gap. Today, it's the reverse. We are importing using savings, which is our heritage funds. We are importing using savings by borrowing money from the bank. We have a negative balance of trade. So what does it mean from the statement you made about innovation? The word diversification, when people talk about diversifying the economy, diversification means finding new opportunities to earn foreign exchange. And the only way you will get diversification is to go back to production, indigenous production, innovation, and invention. In other words, the same way we buying apples from England, we should be selling pastels in Canada. This, in other words, the Chinese come down here. What did they introduce us to? Chinese food. The Syrians come down here, they introduce us to gyros. How come we don't go and produce pastels in Miami? In other words, we need to think, not that we don't have the skills here, but what can you do to earn export earnings? And that's where the universities and these people could be putting the forums in place for those entrepreneurs to come. Because let me tell you something. In America, you have patents where people who are inventors could go and get their thing registered. And once it is registered, they're in a powerful position to get an investor. The light bulb and all these things are inventions. So therefore, people don't have to even take it to the point of selling it. If you could create it and register it, and it has a business plan to go with it, somebody will invest in it. So you're right. The only way for Trinidad and Tobago in 2021 to be able to start to address the structural economic gap between imports and exports is to encourage entrepreneurship and innovation in a population, because the government can't mine everybody. The government doesn't have the money to promote the level of patronage it did in the past. So when you have an increase in your water rate, your property tax, and all these things that have been discussed, we are now in a space where if you don't get up and get, you won't be able to afford to live. The cost of living in Trinidad, in my respectful view, is going to increase in 2021. And these are the calculations I have done. Other people can test it for themselves, by 48%. The cumulative costs of gas are going to increase from January. Electricity bill, that's going to go up. Your water rate, that's going to go up. Your property taxes are going to go up. And all the other prices, like the price in the grocery, that's going up. You're going to see by March a 48% increase in the cost of living. Direct living. Even cigarettes going up.
So in relation to the financing of the entrepreneur's business, then these are a lot of costs in terms of your rent, etc. The entrepreneur now has to look critically at these items in doing his business plan to see how she could minimize those costs.
That's correct. And that is the reason why people are moving out of the malls. Because if you are selling goods in the mall, and you could now sell your goods from your inventory in your garage and advertise it on Facebook and deliver it to people, you already have the car. It's going to be cheaper. So you don't have to pay a rent, then earn. The money you were putting out in rent, you can now put half of that into marketing and get people to buy your goods online. So there's a shift in the business model. But the truth is your cost of living is going to go up. That's why working from home makes more sense. So if gas go up and I am teaching from home, no problem, I can pack up. But internet costs will go up. Then you have to pay for your internet to make sure you can work, because the internet becomes what I call a dependency. But some of those costs are lower now than if I have to park my car in town, rent a building. Port of Spain has many buildings empty. Why? Because people don't want office space anymore. Office space is becoming a thing of the past. So all that rent that the company was paying could be cut by people working from a digital space.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nis. Well, of course, the forum is open for questions. So anyone, you can put your questions in the chat if you wish. And, you know, in terms of ideas, I looked on the newspaper recently and I saw that a Trinidadian had invented a product called Package Pally, which is a delivery box to protect packages and deliveries from theft or damage. And that invention, I think he got a patent for it, and it falls under parcel security apparatus in the US patent system. And I went on and I looked at it, and it's a simple device, you know? So I'm sure there are many innovation opportunities if we sit and think about the things that we do on a daily basis, and moreover, what we will require in the new world order. So you spoke about a number of items that the person who is seeking to get financing from the bank would wish to, should have or to have. Is there any place where such a person can go to get help to have their business plan like reviewed or so before they go to the bank?
Yes, there are places, but I don't want to advertise anybody here. But you can't get people who can help you to prepare your business plan. Because the idea of starting a business, you need to have consultants starting with you. You need to have people who could guide you properly. It's not just about you just going in the bank. Most of the times, things that are well known, people don't know. So a simple thing like, do you have your address? Is the house you're living in yours? But you want to put a kitchen in your house, but is it your house? Do you have title? A simple thing like that. So what happens is you put a kitchen in your house and you spend all the money to fix up the kitchen, and your uncle and your brother who are part owners of the house decide that they don't want it in there anymore. So lots of the things like location stability, having proper lease arrangements, being able to ensure that your product quality stands the health department regulations. If you're cooking, what about ventilation? What about rodents and vermin and hygiene? What about sanitization? All these things that in a normal situation you may choose to ignore, in a business environment it becomes compliance with the law. So anybody who is interested in doing it, maybe through you, we can put them on to to agencies that would help them do that.
Yes, so of
There
course,
are people that do it.
yes, so anyone who's interested, we can give them some information and guidance, because at the end of the day, you'll have to get your own professional advice. Remember, this is a forum for education. So we are just giving the pointers, but people will be responsible for their own decision making and getting the professional advice when the rubber hits the road.
Yes.
Yes. So in relation to all that you have said and having regard to your experience, what would you say are the key pitfalls when persons go to apply for financing that, in a nutshell, they need to look out for?
The first thing I tell people, if you're going to look for money, dress properly. Because bankers and investors measure the commitment to pay greater than the ability to pay. So your brand, your reputation, your image, you're going to the bank to ask for $100,000, but you're looking like a 5-cent piece.
Okay, well, we get the idea of that. Any other tips?
The other tip I'll give you is to document your feasibility study. Go with your documents. And the third thing is research what you could afford. There's something called pre-qualification, right? And
Yeah.
Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage and Finance, they do that. You want to buy a house, you go to Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Finance, you show them your salary, and they will say, well, listen, you are eligible for $500,000 with a mortgage if you want to get a mortgage. That
Yes.
means that you now know that you could buy a house for $500,000 because that is what the bank would finance.
Yes.
So is it before you go back in the bank and say, I want a loan, you're supposed to know you can't go and ask for $1 million because you're not qualified for that. So when you do your due diligence and your feasibility study, you would know what you are eligible for, right? So one, you go dressed to represent the value you want. You dress for the job you have, not the job you want, not the job that, no, dress for the job you want, not the job that you have. Two, you do a proper feasibility study to show that this project has the cash flows to pay your bills. And the third one is what security do you offer? You want to give people money. What security can you offer? And now the idea is not only just about security in terms of a building, but the first security is your commitment to paying this loan and making this business work, because you become the key man. It's called the key man principle. So
Yes.
even if you have a house or you have an asset that you could mortgage, like many of us, I'm sure you can remember that a friend come by you to borrow some money and you went to the bank and you guaranteed for them. They told you how they will pay it off by next week, and then they disappear and you are left with a liability. So the issue there is not they couldn't get a support in terms of security. When it came to commitment to pay, they didn't do it. And that is what, those are the things that are critical for banking.
Okay.
Go in looking good, go with your feasibility study, and be prepared to take this project to the end. To the end when meaning pay off everything as expected.
Yeah, so we recall from the entrepreneur, Miss Maria, that she spoke about the passion. So that reminds me of the element of passion from our entrepreneur, and treating with the personal infrastructure that will help to minimize the gray areas that will not look so attractive that make you not look so attractive to the banker. So we thank you very much, Dr. Nis, for another significant contribution to this forum, another thought-provoking delivery. Thank you for all your responses. And thank you all for the persons who are here on this forum. I will hand you over now to Miss Dianna James, who will do the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sharon. It is my pleasure to propose the vote of thanks. I first thank our guest entrepreneurs, Ms. Maria Borneo of Maria's Country Style Pastels, Mr. Joseph Bertrand of Los Sondios, our guest presenter, Ms. Keisha Cruikshank. Thank you to our featured guest speaker, Dr. Luiners, for his presentation on financing a business and highlighting the techniques and the requirements. Thank you to every one of you that continue to support Dominus Boardroom Forum. Thank you for joining us. I would like again to remind you that if you would like to receive notification for when this forum recording becomes available, you can leave your email in the comments, or you can go to YouTube to Lewis Nurse YouTube's channel and subscribe there. Thank you once again for joining us. Do have a pleasant evening.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a bright and prosperous New Year. And we hope that all your entrepreneurial dreams will come true. And do look forward to our next installation in the Dominus Boardroom Forum series, because we will also be treating in the new year with the legal regime required for the setting up of a company. So we will have those notifications out for you. We'll send the save the dates. Have a blessed and safe evening, everyone. And thank you for joining.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.